Hi friends, I'm Unique. In recent days, you may know me for playing live service games like Final Fantasy XIV or RPG gachas like Genshin Impact, or even losing my mind trying to be okay at Overwatch and that the game and the dev team are in a better state. But I started this channel as a place to be loud about all games I like, which JRPGs really defined my start as a gamer. I have been a gamer for over 20 years, with my start really focusing on JRPGs with compelling stories. I have plans later this year to go back to my roots once again and try to focus on single-player titles here on this channel. There are so many titles out there, new and old stories that I want to see and experience for myself. This video was made in inspiration to Sarah Key's video, which is titled exactly the same thing. I will link her video in the description for y'all to check out if you haven't already. Sarah is such a sweet creator. I enjoy her videos so much. She takes a lot of time and care in explaining games she wants the world to know about and a positive energy that I wish I could even come close to. But I'm me. We're all unique. I hope to spread the word of what I like too, just in my own way. Please keep in mind that for the most part, I'm not ranking one game over the other. A lot of these titles can be exchanged in any order. Except for the last one, of course. We're going straight into this list. There's so many titles out there I would love to give honorable mentions to, but I'm really trying to get this video out quick. Okay, so the very first JRPG I am begging y'all to check out has to be the most skipped out generation of the Pokemon series, Pokemon Black and White and their sequels. Pokemon was the very first game series I ever got into. I like the critters so much and the gameplay too, but Gen 5 of Pokemon was really telling to me that this series has the potential to tell good stories, engaging stories along with the adventure you do on a pretty good level of quality. Not something to write home about, but just something to think about. Especially if you played Mystery Dungeon, you know that this game has the potential to tell really great stories in their mainline titles. Pokemon Black and White to me is Game Freak's most complete mainline title, with the recent games not even coming close to polish in storytelling, even the gameplay itself with some of the quality assurance. There are very good emotional moments and messages this game has throughout the plot, throughout the scenario of the first game and the sequels, and it still means a lot to me to this day. Maybe one day Pokemon Company will release the remake for these games so that they're much more accessible to everyone than they are right now. But I'm still worried about if they even are going to be able to release it on the same level of polish they did before. Especially after whatever they were trying to do with Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. Duh. I do have plans to check out Pokemon Winds and Waves next year. I was pretty impressed with the trailer they showed so far, actually, with the polish that the game desperately needs nowadays. I'm really hoping it'll show an improvement on the level of quality that Gen 5 had. I did pretty much everything you could imagine with the side content in Gen 5. I even did competitive the Wi-Fi tournaments for a while. I did the weird dream minigame, if I can even find a screenshot of that to share with y'all. There was so much to do, and even with a lot of that not being supported anymore due to the Wi-Fi servers being shut down, I still recommend checking these games out just for the story, the interesting characters. It was the first time in the series you really felt you could really feel invested in everyone. The music, you guys, I still listen to Route 10's music to this day, and I'll probably have it playing in the background here. Okay, the second game I am begging y'all to play is Dragon Quest VIII. I have actually only played through Dragon Quest 8, 9, and a little bit of the demo for 11. This series is a beloved turn classic with a constant battle system that ain't broke, so why bother adjusting it? I'd recommend 8 over 9 to y'all, because unfortunately, while I do like 9 just a tiny bit more, it is very scuffed nowadays due to the Nintendo DS Wi-Fi servers being shut down. 9 loses out on pretty huge story because of it. So for 8, both the PS2 and the 3DS versions have a complete story with a very iconic playable cast that is so worth your time checking out. The PS2 version especially has graphics that hold up to this day, 20 years later. The gameplay is your standard turn-based, but it feels satisfying winning boss battles, and you gotta put on your noggin later on for some of those fights. The plot twists are very classic JRPG, but you still have this feeling of what happens next. I want to see what happens to this character because of the soundtrack carries this game so hard. It elicits emotions so well. This is such a charming game. You can literally pick it up if you've never played a JRPG before. You will be just fine. It's so beginner friendly that eventually, if you feel like you're having a hard time, you will pull through and get a big ol' smile at your face by the end. I am very sure this game is on Square Enix's chopping block of the Dragon Quest remakes. It's up next. I'm so excited to hear about this game's remake getting announced soon, so I can yell at everyone to play it. JRPG number 1-3, no, I just mean 3, is a huge stretch, but technically you're progressing characters through a leveling system throughout the story. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is a sci-fi experience. The gameplay swaps between mystery visual novel and Fire Emblem strategy, but in real time. The game has an incredibly bizarre story that even trying to start to explain it to y'all would be going into spoiler territory. I'm not even joking. This game is easily the best Vanillaware has put out in terms of, is the story good, and is it actually going to be fun to play this game? The dev team has amazing artists too. As you go through the visual novel mode, you're just wowed by the background of the scenes and the way the characters are drawn. The music's really great too. The remembrance mode scenes and the destruction mode's battles are set very well with the music. You just feel the emotion that is trying to be conveyed there. When I played the game myself on stream, I found myself deep in a rabbit hole, trying to write down notes of who this character is, how do they feel about this other character, why are they like this? I was constantly using the in-game encyclopedia looking for explanations of lore bits pretty much the entire time. This game has easily the most ambitiously written story I've ever seen. If you want to experience a giant in-depth story, sci-fi style that you just want to get lost in, you just have no idea what's going on until the end when you have to tie it all together, I am begging you to play this type of JRPG. Game number 4 is Death. The World Ends With You and its sequel, Neo: The World Ends With You, are a stylish 2000 street style JRPG death game adventure through Shibuya. There's reapers, witty dialogue, chaotic combat, all packaged into this weird game that series that just works so well. The game rewards you for doing side content that I mostly skipped, and even provides more insight to the lore though that way. Don't worry, I looked up everything after I was done. I actually like the sequel Neo more, but it's unfortunate that Square did not market Neo that well at all. My playthrough streams of Neo: The World Ends With You were some of the most fun I had streaming in the past few years. This game has so many fun characters that you just want to get to know more about, and whenever somebody pulls up on screen, you're just like, oh yeah, and other times you're like, oh no. The art is so beautiful. Every cutscene is filled with a variety of character portrait sprites that display their emotions well. And everyone is super stylish for time period the game's set in. I would say skip the first game for Neo, but it is essential that you play both the first and second game, and both are very good in their own ways. The World Ends With You holds up pretty well on the Switch, but you can play the DS version of the first game if you can on physical hardware. It's pretty good gameplay of the DS version that was kind of lost from the Switch version, I understand. The voice acting in Neo is phenomenal. It carries scenes so well, characters so well, the English localization. And you never feel that the pacing with the story gets slow. Has an RPG-like character progression, but for the most part, you can get through it with doing the bare minimum, at least I did. And to bounce off of Sarah's video, if you're a fan of Kingdom Hearts, I am begging you to play this game. Literally, Nomura worked on this series as a character designer. You will definitely recognize some of these guys. Many of you know me for my Final Fantasy XIV streams. I love the Final Fantasy series. I have played it probably, yeah, I think we hit the 20-year mark this year. I have played so many of the games. I love the stories. I love the reoccurring critters, the Moogles, the magic, the themes of summons. And one thing that every Final Fantasy game has is that sweet, heart-wrenching message of hope. There's so many games in the series I could recommend to you, but I am just going to beg you to play Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X, to this day, embodies what the series is about the best. It has a fantastic English voice acting dub. It has the turn-based system from the old games, the best it's ever been, really. The gameplay's pretty simple enough to pick up for anybody who hasn't really played JRPGs. We have Uematsu's soundtrack, which, man, I know he's still around. I need to not talk like he's not around anymore. He's still around, but that was a pinnacle of his work. The OST of that game. The graphics are pretty well. If you think it's a little uncanny, the Steam version of 10, you could mod it to There's some graphic mods if you really feel that strongly about it. But another beauty about Final Fantasy X, and well, the series in general, is that it's literally on everything except for poor Final Fantasy 13. I really like the cast. I love their development everyone has throughout the story. There's lots of emotional buildup that at the end just grabs you really hard at the end. It's a pretty tear-jerking ending, and there is a sequel. It is not everyone's cup of tea. I love it, but it is a nightmare to try to 100% both the first and second game. However, if you know nothing about Final Fantasy, if you're like, what is Final Fantasy? Unique, why are you talking about Final Fantasy X when you could be talking about 14? Final Fantasy X, it does the best job of showing you what the series is about. The series has gone through so many changes since then, but I feel like 10, the community generally agrees on, pulls with the old and really holds up to the modern. It is definitely going to be one of those games you will consider a classic must-play to this day. You play as a dude who just really gets talked down a lot until the cast gets trust in you, and you learn so much about the world. The world building in 10 is phenomenal. It's not too in-depth like Final Fantasy 12 and 13. It's there for you to find throughout the game's dialogue, throughout side quests, that it isn't too complicated to pick up on everything. In case you haven't noticed, guys, I really like turn-based just because it is very accessible to everyone. I really recommend, if you're put off by turn-based and you're like, I want to play Final Fantasy, go check out the newer titles. Something out there is going to snatch you. I just like this game series has had a death grip on me for the past 2 decades. Okay, next on the list, another long-running series that I have been so grabbed by with the brainworms. 10 years later, ever since I played this game, I've never stopped yelling about this series. It is so good. The highs are high. Yes, there are some low lows, but the highs make up for it so much to me. It is Persona, specifically Persona 4. Any JRPG gamer obviously is gonna know about this series. I know Sarah talked about a bit on it in her video, but I have a very much different sentiment when it comes to the Persona series. I really like 3 and 5. 3 I played FES way back in the day, and I played it again for stream a few years back. 5 is modern, it's stylish. The 5 was what brought Persona to the mainstream, if you will. But 4 is the game I'm begging you have to play it. I know you've played Persona 3 Reload. I know you played 5. Please play Persona 4. Even if you're gonna wait for revival, please play Persona 4. I'm a huge fan of the OST. I think out of all the singers we've had, I think Shihiko is my favorite. Just to listen to her vocals. I love the dynamic between this cast out of all the Persona games. I feel like they're the most tight-knit friend group out of all the casts we've had in Persona, the modern ones anyway. The Steam version lets you adjust the difficulty just so well. I feel like the voice actors for this game are literal legends. I'm trying so hard to get an autograph on a photo from Yuri. I'm gonna look for him. I will be on the hunt. The gameplay is starting to age a bit with Golden, but it's still a playable game to get through. The social links, I think all of them have a lesson to learn, and I really enjoy the development, for the most part, of the cast. Yes, I think Ai Evihara is a very well-written character. Yes, the nurse pisses me off, but at the same time, I do like the way her story ends. And yes, I do think Teddy is just incredibly naive and has no idea what the hell he's saying half the time. And you know what? No, I'm starting. I could make a whole other video about my hot takes about Persona 4, but I am a strong believer in identity, and I love the way the cast gets a grip of their identity in Persona 4, and they're like, yes, I am me. This is how I want to live. Every single one of the playable characters, even Naoto. This game has a bunch of fantastic adaptations worth checking out too. I love the Persona 4 anime to this day. And I'm very on my knees nervous, guys. Like, everyone needs to play Revival because I think it'll be a fantastic modernization of the gameplay for the original Persona 4. But I'm so nervous how they're gonna handle a certain social link. I'm so nervous how they're gonna relocalize stuff. I'm so nervous about the level of love and care. The reload though looks like they did pretty good. It's pretty well. I haven't played it myself actually. I've only played FES. But most of my peers are satisfied with Reload, so I will hold so much faith in such high standard for Atlas to do a fantastic job with Revival. I am begging you. You have to play this game, guys. Okay, JRPG number 7, I am begging with so much good luck for y'all to play. It's Shin Megami Tensei, similar vein to Persona. Digital Devil Saga, both 1 and 2. This game is a quirky 2000s JRPG title with a compelling cast of characters who are trying to fight their way out of a dog-eat-dog world. Meanwhile, they encounter this mysterious girl who has a connection with all of them. This game has fantastic music. The guitar you can easily recognize from old school Persona 3. I love the art style from these characters. It shares that very classic Shin Megami Tensei art style but in 3D modeling, which is so nice to look at. Argilla is one of my favorite designed Shin Megami Tensei Persona characters ever. The gameplay is pretty okay to pick up if you haven't played Shin Megami Tensei or Metaphor Refantasio before. However, your mileage may vary, especially when you get to the optional stuff near the end. I prefer the progression system in the first game much more to the second. However, both are pretty linear and pretty obvious about what you're supposed to do to at least survive the main story. Digital Devil Saga is unfortunately stuck in PlayStation 2 jail. If you can somehow play this game, I recommend it just because it is a good introduction to Shin Megami Tensei, not Persona, Shin Megami Tensei. I think the story is very interesting, especially since the first game pretty much has a bunch of build-up that is resolved in the second. And unfortunately, this game does have voice acting, but it is very stiff 2000s, not aged well voice acting that, depending on some of the characters, you actually might like the way they're delivered. But yeah, I hear it all the time and I can very much agree. If you've never touched a Shin Megami Tensei game before, Digital Devil Saga is a good place to start. I just am on my knees, again, begging Atlas. You already did it for Rido, please. You already did it for Nocturne. You have to somehow bring Digital Devil Saga. I will be waiting for you guys to announce it in June, if you're not gonna say anything about Revival. Alright, game number 8 is gonna be kind of a nightmare for me to explain it all at once. I am begging you to check out the Xeno games. Not just Xenoblade, which is very accessible on the Switch. Not just Xenogears, which you might have to do some shenanigans to get running on your stuff nowadays. I'm also including Xenosaga, which I'm not even done with the series and I'm still begging you to check it out. So the Xeno games are a series of sci-fi hardcore JRPGs with some of the most ambitious direction and storytelling I have ever seen. The scope that these games try to cover is huge for their times, with in-depth story, characters that you are so pulled in by and want to know more about, and all have their own arcs that grow throughout the plot. Now, Xenogears, Xenosaga, Xenoblade, you do not necessarily have to play them all in chronological order and to understand one or the other. They're all their own things for a variety of reasons. But obviously, the safest starting point would be Xenoblade, as it's accessible to everyone nowadays with a Switch. Xenoblade has some of the best music of the series. I love Yasunori Mitsuda's work throughout. He's still there along with Takahashi for most of these games. I think that's my favorite part about the Xeno series, really, is the music. But I love the exploration in Xenoblade. It's such a big world to explore, and I just enjoy the running around in the first game. The second game kind of kicked my ass, but the first and third game had such beautiful landscape that you're just like, how did they manage to cram this onto the Switch? And there's so much sweet emotional moments where you're crying, where you're like cheering them on, these heroes, and trying to even explain the depths of humanity in space with these giant robots. Everyone's riding mechs, everyone's doing these group battles. It is so much that I could wish I could explain faster than in a few minutes. The gameplay, especially in the second and third game, not really is for me, but I love the DLCs for these games and their gameplay actually. Xenoblade has the best DLC content for single player games I have ever seen, and they are essential for the story. Technically, the Xenoblade 2's DLC is not essential for the series as a whole, but it makes up for such a big dumpster fire that the base game could be on your first impression. Literally, it is like going from base Xenoblade 2 is like eating raw cilantro, and then the second game is like eating a lovely soup topped with cilantro. The DLC, I mean. I love the immersion Xenoblade brings with me, and I'm sure you will hear Sarah say the exact same thing on her video. I love the first game's cast with all my heart, and I just think Takahashi did such a fantastic job building this world and wrapping up the arc in Xenoblade 3. Technically, you can play the games in any order. Ideally, you should play 1, 2, 3 with the DLCs. You will be so satisfied with the way it is, and we're not done. Xeno is not done. It's still going. I'm waiting to hear news about this from a Nintendo Direct someday. But Xenoblade, if you somehow get through those games and you're like, I want more, then you really have to play Xenogears and Xenosaga. Xenogears was the director Takahashi's first game. Yasunori Mitsuda was also there back in the day. It's a PS1 title that is super hard to even kept running nowadays. It is incredibly jank. I'm telling you right now. Like, it's turn-based Xenogears, but you will be fighting for your life trying to get through the jank of that game. When you really dig into the story that they were trying to tell there, you will be jaw-dropped. The second disc kind of gets loosey-goosey, not even just because of the story, but because of gameplay reasons that you'll see when you get there. However, I think with what they had, they did a fantastic job telling their story through to the end, and I wish Xenogears could get a remaster or some justice done for it, because I would have loved to have seen what the whole story for that game would have been like. So you're probably like, Unique, why are you recommending Xenosaga when you're not even done with episode 1? I'm 20 hours into episode 1 right now. I am jaw-dropped by the cutscenes of that game. Xenosaga has the iconic Cosmos. You've probably seen Bamco post photos of her on their social medias every once in a while. But it also has a rarely seen thing, you know, back in old JRPGs back in the day, is a female protagonist. And a prominent female protagonist presence. I like Cosmos. I like her story arc so far of learning what it is to be alive. I like Shion. I'm very curious to see where her story is going to lead up to, because you can already tell. That's one thing about the Xeno protagonists. They all have this background story that you're like, who are they actually? And then you find out later and your jaw is dropped for every single one of these guys. So I'm very interested to see who Shion actually is and how that's going to build up to Xenoblade Saga 2 and 3, which I still have to play. I've been warned that 2 is a nightmare like Xenoblade 2, but we're going to get through it somehow. You're probably like, Unique, what ties the Xeno series together? Why are you recommending them all? Let's go with 3 reasons. 1, what makes the Xeno series great is, number 1, incredibly ambitious storytelling for each of their times, especially with Xenogears and Xenosaga. Like, I am so shocked at the level of depth, religious references, human psychosis that the series tries to get into. 2, the music. I'm telling you, one of the reasons I love playing through games is the music. Story-based games does the medium it's set in, is it being taken advantage of, which for Xenogears and Xenosaga, especially back in the day, I can tell you it's fantastic. The best cutscene choreography, which is my 3rd reason. Xenogears, Xenosaga, Xenoblade all have the best cutscene choreography I've ever seen for each of their mediums. Xenogears does a fantastic job with its 2.5D pixel sprite format, trying to choreograph cutscenes. Xenosaga cutscenes, it's like watching a sci-fi movie, you guys. Xenosaga, like the first 10 hours of the games, my jaw is dropped at the level of movie immersion that game is trying to do, and I love it. Xenoblade is top tier cutscene choreography, even the first game, which was on the freaking Wii. I'm so shocked at the way the characters are animated in Xenoblade and the fight scenes are amazing. I kind of noticed that's a big trend with this list is I just really like sci-fi nowadays. That didn't really happen to me back in the day, but now that I think about it, I've really grown to enjoy this sci-fi JRPG mixture. And also, since the Xeno series went through so many different iterations, each of the games has a different combat system, which I like Xenogears' turn-based the best for myself, but Xenosaga's turn-based is kind of a mess, but I kind of like it. It's growing on me. I need to finish the game to really say anything about that. Xenoblade's combat is a whole other level. You guys, like, I'm thinking about it. I was fighting for my life in Xenoblade 2 with the gacha. Oh my gosh. Xenoblade 2, you will make it through, I promise, but that game's combat left such a bad taste in my mouth that was completely cleaned up by the DLC. That's another thing you'll hear me say about often is that the Xenoblade DLCs have my favorite combat actually out of the series now that I think about it. Every single time I enjoyed the simplified down combat of the DLCs in 1, 2, and 3 more than the base game because you can get super in-depth the combat, and unfortunately with the Switch hardware 3 suffers a kind of a bit with a jank, but it all works out. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm gonna edit this, you guys. This turned into such a big old mess because I just love the Xeno series for its immersion. I think it literally is the most immersive JRPG series out of all of here. If you want to get into not a visual novel like 13 Sentinels, but you want to get lost in a big expansive world with factions, characters all over the place with their own motivations and world building, the Xeno series is for you. It is like lore central, and we're still not even done because of the stuff they introduced at the end of Xenoblade 3's DLC. I think people used to say, you don't really need to know what's going on in Xenogears and Xenosaga, but it looks like the Xeno series might be pulling some stuff again. See, because of copyright issues, they can't flat out be like, hey, this is a Xenogears reference. But you can tell there's so much inspiration and motivation from the older titles that are slowly making their way to the modern Xeno games. I don't think they can flat out bring Cosmos in again, but we'll see. We're in the final 2, you guys. I'm going to recommend a game from the Tales series. I do like Tales. They has a really big example of good highs and very low lows. Especially if you heard me and my feelings about Tales of Arise, I think that's a fine Tales game. I don't think it's a best Tales game at all. I think it's a good one to start off with if you're like, what is Tales? I want to know more about it. I think it's a good start, but there are some other titles that resonate a lot more with me. I believe Sarah in her video talked about Tales of Vesperia a bit, and especially Symphonia, but I'm going to talk about a title that resonated a lot more with me than with her. It is Tales of Berseria. Tales of Berseria is a story about human emotion, about revenge, about is it really satisfying to go about it this way? Why are humans like this? Why are we alive? Why do we do what we do as people? And it connects together an incredibly unlikely group of misfits. You guys are not heroes in this game. In the traditional sense, nobody's gonna pull up to you and cheer you on and be like, yes, these guys are gonna save the town type of deal. No, you are a menace to society at the start of the game there, and nobody is gonna go out and sing sing of your tales and journeys and be hyping you up like that. No, you are out here fighting for your life. You are out here trying to do so much, and somehow these characters just meet up together and have such an incredible dynamic with each other. They find understanding with each other that I really like. I love the cutscene choreography for this game, the fight scenes. I love every character's arc. This game is technically a prequel to Tales of Zestiria, but released after Zestiria. And while I do love Zestiria, the cast does not grab you the way this game does. And you don't technically even have to play Zestiria. Even though Zestiria released before this game, You could technically skip it and just play this on its own, and you just, by the end, you are so hurt by the fate of, by the way that you're just like, dang, we fought so much and then it ended like this. If you do play Zestiria first, you will pretty much play through Berseria being like, dang, I know how this is gonna end up, but I think the voice acting for this game is also amazing. Y'all know Erica Lindbeck for Futaba. Nah. I know Erica Lindbeck for Magilu. I think she is an icon. I think Velvet is an icon. This is another game also with a strong female cast. I genuinely like everyone in this game, and it has my favorite cast in a Tales game ever, and probably some of my favorite casts in a JRPG ever. The music I really like. I love the violin in the battle music. It embodies Velvet so well with that. It almost has like a feminine side to it, but a fierce side to it, which you see Velvet in her rage throughout the story. I love Velvet's development the most out of the cast, actually, and the way she learns to find friends in such a troubled time. I'm a huge believer in human emotion and that being your way to live, and this game embodies it so well. You're probably like, why is it called Berseria? Berseria is them trying to say berserk, as in enrage, emotion, tales of emotion. That is what is going to make us human versus just thought and reason. I could go on and on about this. The combat, you kind of button mash. I'm going to be very real with you guys. Every single Tales game, I just kind of button mash my way through it and hope that it works out. But if you can get good at it, it is satisfying to smack the enemies and stun lock them into oblivion. Berseria also goes on sale in Steam very often. There is a definitive edition that cleans some stuff up. I would not pay full price for that. I would wait until it goes inevitably on sale. And yeah. Really, truly with all my heart, you have to play this game, guys. Oh my gosh, I've been recording for 2 hours. Final game is my favorite game of all time. No one should be surprised by this if you paid attention to what games I've said I liked before. Number 1 game, I beg everyone, anyone who barely even does gaming, you have to check it out. It's technically not a JRPG, but it has RPG elements and it was made in Japan. I don't know. It is Okami. I played this game originally on the PS2, I played the PS3 version, I played the PS4 version, I played the Wii version, I played the Switch version, I've played the PC version, I have yet to play the PS5 version, but I gotta one of these days. Okami is a timeless classic. This game has a beautiful immersion. You play as the sun god herself and are saving your land from the darkness that is invading. With the power of art, there's such a beautiful immersion between art and gameplay. The characters' designs are all paint drawed. You're painting yourself to manipulate the world around you and explore beautiful dungeons, landscapes. The game does a beautiful retelling of some Japanese tales and makes references all over the place that if you took the time, you could go check out and be like, oh, that's cool. There's such a deep respect for history in this game that you just love looking at it. The story is pretty simple along the journey, as there's some plot twists coming up that you would expect to see a mile away, but it doesn't take away from the fun you have just running around, exploring, and finding satisfaction in even doing the side content and all the battle content. You just find yourself in so much whimsy going throughout the lands of Nippon. It doesn't matter how often you replay it either. You're just going through it and you just love it. You're like, hey, what if I do this weapon this way? Or hey, what happens if I do this side content? Or what happens if I speed run this game? What happens if I do a challenge run of this game and only do 3 hearts? Okami was Clover Platinum, whatever you want to call it, Hideki Kamiya's one of his classic works, and it got confirmed for a sequel even. Okami 2 is finally confirmed in development. I'm so excited, you guys, because I just find so much joy playing this game. To me, it's like that old friend that you just find so much happiness to say hi to again every once in a while, and I really should replay it for stream one day, maybe for charity stream. You're constantly cheering on your protagonist, Amaterasu, to beat the bad guy and save this part of the land. There's so many quirky, silly characters, quirky moments that you find funny. There are some sad moments too, of course, and it's just classic way of telling a story. You know, you have 3 arcs in Okami. You have such great moments at the end and build up to the next arc, and you're like, okay, we did that, what are we gonna do next? I have the OST constantly on my Spotify. I love Reset. Thank you, Reset. Okami is the only game I've ever 100%ed because I just love doing the content in that game. I love collecting things in there. You're rewarded so well for doing everything. And it's essential because you got to do everything so you have the strength to save your land. I have the art book actually here somewhere. I'm going to show some screenshots, but you can see, like, literally you can look at it and just tell why this is always going to be a classic. A game referencing history in such a stylized way is always going to hold up well through years to come, and it'll always be my #1 to recommend to you guys. Okay, I had such a nightmare trying to record everything. I hope you guys found a title that you were convinced to check out. Please let me know in the comments if there are any series you also like, or if there's any series you're thinking about checking out. I hope that actually would make me so happy if I hear of somebody actually getting motivated from this video to check out a game. And I want to say thank you to Sarah for giving me the brainworms to sit down and record this video for me myself. I almost want to pull a 2000s YouTube culture moment and tag a certain someone else I know to try to make a video like this. Don't tell her. But we really don't do that nowadays anymore in the gaming side of YouTube. I miss those days. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I am going to try so hard to be loud for the rest of this year. Loud about what I like. Loud about so many good games out there. So much fandom content. I've also been posting a lot of fandom content the past few months. I would love to keep that going too. This is my first time recording with me on full screen. I'm sorry if I look like an awkward mess. It's because I am. Do not expect much more of this. I just got very inspired by Sarah's video to style it this way, and yeah. I don't know what other edited content I will be posting next in the long form, but please do look forward to it, and I hope to see you in whatever I do next. Bye, friends.